Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I want to remind you about our national TV show on the Biz Television Network, 38 million homes around the country every Sunday at 11:30 a.m., and it has been so much fun. We did a bunch of production this past week, including Congressman Steve Stockman was a guest on the program. Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was a guest on the program. And, and I've had people respond like, wow, man, you've got like national quality guests for your program, which I'm like, well, it is a national TV show, so why wouldn't we do that? Senator Rand Paul has confirmed that he's going to be on the show in the next few weeks. We've got a taping with him next week, and just a lot of great guests, and I'm delighted that we're able to do it, and really hope you're checking us out over there at priceofbusiness.com, where we're putting a lot more footage up there, and you can see last week's show will be posted over the weekend. So make sure you check it out. But it's Sunday at 11:30 a.m. on the Eastern Time on the Biz TV network, and you can find out how to watch it no matter where you are by going to priceofbusiness.com. All right, every so often, usually a couple times a month or so, we have my good friend Marc Krasney on the show. He does a great job talking about the legal front. He is kind of your chief legal counsel for hire. You heard of these virtual CFOs. He's a virtual chief legal counsel, which I think is an amazingly smart business model. And I love what you do, Mark. Kind of, elaborate a little more on that, and also give us your website right at the very beginning.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Kevin. It's KrasneyLawFirm.com. And I think the easiest way to describe our firm is we are the in-house counsel without you paying us a salary. Mm-hmm. It's a nominal flat fee per month, and you get access to lawyers as if you were, or if you had an in-house counsel.
Yeah. And I kind of like to say it's, if there's any area where an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, it's in the area of law. And that having that, that in-house counsel concept where you can freely ask questions can really prevent a lot of serious problems from happening later. To me, it's just makes so much sense economically. And it's been great for you because it's kept you out of the courtroom.
Exactly. I spent several years in the courtroom with litigation and watched how clients waited until the very end to involve me, which was fine, but our model now is involve us earlier. Let us become part of the management team. Let us know what kind of business decisions need to be made and how they should be made, and let us advise. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is we're hoping to keep the clients out of the courtroom, because theoretically, if somebody gets us involved soon enough, we can actually hopefully prevent whatever lawsuit could happen in the future.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit, we just ended the year, but we're also at that time in the beginning of the year where people make a lot of goals and they try to make their next year better than the year before. And one of the areas to me that seems like a great place to evaluate is your estate planning. How are you planning on taking care of your family? So let's talk a little bit about that today. First of all, kind of in broad terms, talk about what estate planning looks like.
Yeah, it's a great topic. Most business owners don't think about it. Typically we talk about making sure the contracts with the business are appropriate for the needs. But we don't remember to think about the owners, the shareholders, the officers, and their estate planning. And what I'm talking about there specifically with regards to business would be, what happens if that person who has been making the major decision signs a check, becomes incapacitated? Not necessarily dies, but can no longer make those decisions. Absent some agreements and some documents in place prior to, what exactly does that business do? Mm-hmm. And if we don't have the right estate planning, they're going to be in trouble. And so what we would do is come in addition to looking at other documents that exist for the company, is to make sure that at least the major decision makers and owners have the right powers of attorney, medical powers of attorney, and then lastly, a will, trust, things like that, looking at their specific assets.
Yep, no question about it. It makes a lot of sense. So let's just chronologically, step by step, go through that process. Where do you begin?
Well, the first thing I would say is we would talk with the business owner, assuming this is an LLC, and most businesses that are our customers are a 1- and 2-person owned LLC or corporation. We would talk with them and discuss, what do you have in place now? And, we don't want to make more work for anybody. If it works, hey, great, we give you the green light, go for it. But if it doesn't work, and it's not going to work for making sure that things are in place when those decisions have to be made in the future, we're going to come in and say, look, you're going to need at least a statutory power of attorney where in the event, like we said before, you become incapacitated, somebody has the power to step in that person's shoes and make those decisions, sign those checks, do those things. We would talk also about what kind of bank accounts are set up. There are certain trigger words like convenience accounts where, assuming you and I were in business together, I could put your name on the account and you'd have signing authority, which is nice because it gets the payroll done. But assuming I want to make sure that account goes to you in perpetuity after I'm gone, I'd want to have that as a survivorship account. We'd look at that. We'd also want to look at medical powers of attorney. Sometimes there's a closed corporation, a family corporation, and I want to make sure that you, assuming we're in business together, can make decisions for me in the event that I can't make a medical decision on my own. That's a whole separate agreement. And then lastly, we would talk about the assets. What value, what net worth does a person have? And then what tool, instrument can we use to make sure that we can limit as much tax liability, not just for the person, but also the company? All those things collectively we do at once, and that's what our firm would call estate planning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very good. So kind of give the listener a rundown of all the parties that need to be involved in this.
A lot of times it's the business owners, their partners, and also the employees. Who's there? Is it a closed corporation? Are there shareholders? Is there stock? And then to talk about what risks are there, what liabilities, what debts, those kind of things. We'd also like to get involved the CPA, any other lawyers that have dealt with the company or the individuals personally. That usually is enough to get started, and many times just a small, simple estate planning program will work for most of the listeners of your show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now a lot of people, they sit here and they hear this and they go, you know what, this sounds expensive, but it's certainly cheap compared to probate.
It is, and probate's not as bad as people think it is. Typically, probate just means we're going to file that will, and so long as you've done it right with a self-proved affidavit, all it really requires is one hearing, get that executor appointed, and then letters testamentary are given to that executor, so that person literally steps in the shoes of the deceased and can make whatever decisions.
Yeah,
so
but the operative word there, the important word there, Mark, was will.
Yeah.
If you don't have
Absolutely.
that, probate is a nightmare. And so there's a whole lot of disputes as to who owned what and what was this and who's going to get that. And there often can be. And so this is why, planning, the word planning is so crucial, because otherwise you're inviting attorneys and legal institutions and the government itself to enjoy way more benefits that were meant to be for those you loved.
That's exactly right, especially if you have a business. And if that business is a family business, if there isn't a will, it is very, very difficult and trying, and like you said, expensive for all parties.
Marc Krasney, thanks so much for being with us. The Krasney Law Firm, Krasney, lawfirm.com. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Kevin.
Great topic. When we come back, more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usgatorreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. And this is The Price of Business.